The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
DPS, the SSO training, and I would go to the refresher stuff every year because they have updates and stuff, or most every year, not every year. Robin Johnson and you know, the gals that teach that stuff in there.
And do you recall any specific training that would be relative to this investigation that you might have received during either your certification or your updates?
Just that it had to be for a legitimate law enforcement, that you had to run to run anything on a CJIS, it had to be for a legitimate law enforcement reason. And I trusted people to do it for a legitimate law enforcement reason. You know, the criminal histories, they had to fill out the paper, they had to put a DR number or why they needed it. So in the driver's license, I took them at their word that they were doing an investigation or a legitimate law enforcement reason.
Okay, now, beginning with 2011, John Jones and Jennifer Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Looked like you ran Jennifer Jones on April 16th.
Mm-hmm.
Driver's license check photo, one out of Arizona, one out of Oklahoma, and then on the 17th, the criminal history.
Okay, and that's when I believe when the chief called Oklahoma, and she came. Does it say results or anything there? It says she came. That's about the time that they got married. She had Oklahoma driver's license in Jennifer Harris' name. Then she went in and got Jennifer Jones when she got married. And then she moved to Arizona and got a Arizona driver's license. Prior to that, she had an Arizona ID card. And that's where the chief and Frosto and the town were doing investigations in the fact that these people had valid driver's license in other states, but they had valid ID cards in the state of Arizona. And when they sign up for the valid ID cards, Motor Vehicles has a thing in there, do you want to register to vote? You can register to vote.
So this was the reason why they told you is because of the registration, voter registration on this?
I'm not even sure but that's what they were working on. I don't believe they came out and said, this is why we want you to do it. They just said, request, can you run this for me?
So when you were running these people during these voter registrations, were you specifically told by the chief or anybody that asked you to run that for the Quartzsite Police Department that they were running or they were requesting you to run these driver's license checks to determine if these people were eligible to either vote or to run for a council position?
I remember Frosto one time saying, or maybe it was a chief, I don't know, we don't think that they're eligible to vote. Can you check and see where they're driving, just in conversation. It wasn't, we want you to run this because we think this. It was just in conversation type thing.
Okay. So, but I mean, did he, during this conversation, sit there and say, hey, we don't think these people are eligible to vote in this election? Can you check and see where they have their license? Did they have you do that? I mean, in other words, how did it come about that to where you're associating this to the voter registration? Were you specifically told, hey, we're trying to determine this?
I could just hear it going on in the office.
Okay, so is this something where, because you knew of some certain things that were going on with concerns of people being eligible to vote or run for seats, that you were putting the two together, and this is an assumption on your base, or is this something where they specifically came to you and said, hey, look, we need to make sure that these people are eligible to vote or run?
They didn't come to me and say that. When I started putting two and two together was when they started having me copy these reports, and I could, and one of the pages of the report says, this date they had this driver's license, this date the computer check said they had this date it had this date, and I'm going like, whoa. And that was the report for voter fraud. So that's,
Okay.
it was after the fact that I realized what they were having me do, not prior to. When I was making these copies to send off is when the flags started raising.
Okay, so that I understand correctly, so when you identified that they were having you do this and that it could be associated to the voter registration and people running for council seats was when you were making copies for this possible pending lawsuit and you were making copies for
Yes.
for risk management.
Yes.
Okay, so you weren't aware of, you didn't see the tie at the time that you were running?
No.
And you were never told, hey, we're having you, or we need for you to run these individuals
No.
to see if they're eligible to
No.
vote or for council positions? Okay.
Because I might have questioned, is this really legitimate to run these people for this?
Now, when you were running the copies, was there like a DR that was attached to
Yeah.
this? Because they were doing, now were they doing this as a criminal investigation for voter fraud then?
I believe so.
Okay. And it would have been the same day for John Jones, the 6th of April.
Because
Or
I think
not
that's
take
when
that
they
back,
came
yeah.
back.
Yeah.
They came back in April, I believe, that year.
Okay. Because there's a criminal history
Or-
check and then a check out of
They
license check
shouldn't.
out
They
of
should be
Indiana.
just be getting ready to leave. Maybe, I don't know. April. I don't know. But that's the elections that year were. I don't know when the elections were, but there was a spring recall election or something.
Okay. Are you aware of anybody on the council presently that has an out-of-state, might have an out-of-state driver's license?
No,
Okay.
What about registration? I know you mentioned
that one vehicle.
Lucas.
They did have, but the other ones I don't
And
know.
the chief never asked you to do any checks on
Oh, no.
that person?
No.
Okay.
There was one time when they thought, and it was quite a while ago, that they were going to run backgrounds on anybody that was going to be on the council and I think I called and they said, no, you really can't do that because a background, because they're not really employees of the police department. So they, so I mean, unless they had gotten stopped or they were doing some kind of investigation on those people, no.
Now, you've been working for the police department for 9 years, and I believe the chief came in 5 years ago.
About that, yeah.
Up until 2008, so I'm going to roughly say, 5 years. He would have got there about 2006.
Yeah, 2000, no. Who, Chief?
Chief.
Yeah, okay, I guess.
Best year election between 2006 and 2008. Did the chief ever come to you and ask you to run people's, for driver's license, voter registration?
No. I mean, he never really, he would, there may have been some driver's license, but I can't, voter registration stuff, no. I don't believe, he wasn't really real active in the voter registration, the voter turnout then. I'm trying to think. I'm sure he had me run a license plate from time to time, but I can't.
But nothing to this magnitude?
No.
Okay. Now, up until that point, had anything changed in the town that may have been a difference between the time he got there, 2006 to 2008, to when?
There was, when I noticed a real change in Chief Gilbert's demeanor and how Steve Bennett was elected mayor as a write-in candidate. Steve Bennett and the chief didn't get along. Steve Bennett wanted to go out for bid on a council, to advertise or something for a chief position. Chief flew back from it was just at the end of his FBI academy, so I'm not sure when that was. And that's when he at that time, I mean, his contract wasn't up. At that council meeting, we were all told to be there to support the chief. So we were there. He came back. He had various people testify in his behalf, and we thought it was odd that the people that testified did not live in the town of Quartzsite. And the council renewed his contract ahead of time, which was, I thought was odd too, but okay. So then the town passed some ordinance, resolution, something, whatever, saying that you couldn't be on the council or hold up public office if you owed the town money, and apparently Steve Bennett owed the town taxes or something. I don't know. Anyhow, there was some big kind of blow up. He left. He quit. Then that is when Chief Gilbert started getting very involved in the workings of the town government. Dan Fields left. He was the town attorney, town manager. Alex Taft was the assistant town manager at that time. She moved up into town manager. She was, as it would be like, as I was going out the door at 5 o'clock, she was coming in. Her and the chief conferred a lot on what was going on. I mean, I don't know, because it was, as I was going out, she was coming in almost every day. Then he got to where, instead of her coming to the office, he would go down to town hall in her office. They had meetings every day, because department heads have to do that. So, I mean, at the time, I just assumed it was because she was new, didn't know, legalities or what, I don't know. But that's when he became very involved in the town council. I wouldn't want to be, because they're like old and they die. And so what they've done is, I'm not even real sure as to how many that are still on there that were elected, because one person would pass away, and so then they would appoint another person. And I know it happens on all boards and everything. You appoint your friend that's gonna, work well with you, because that's how things go smoothly. So you end up with a board that that wasn't elected by the people.
Now, back then when the chief was voted back in, or his contract was renewed, how many people on the council were on it then that are on it now?
I don't know. I really don't know. I couldn't tell you. I mean, I normally didn't even go to the council meetings. I don't know. I went to that one because we were told we needed to be there.
Do you recall who told you that you needed to be at that council meeting to support the chief?
I believe it was Sergeant Frosto, or maybe it was Sergeant Frosto, because the chief wasn't there. He said, we need to all be there to support the chief because Bennett's trying to get rid of him.
And was this something, hey, we would like for you to show up and
No.
support the chief, or were you
No.
told that you had to show up?
Well, I don't believe he used the words had, but I knew that I was supposed to be there. There was only one officer that wasn't there, and she was, I don't know, how do you say, she wasn't reprimanded, but it was, well, you weren't there, you were the only one that weren't there. Just comments saying, and I know Sergeant Ponce was, was on vacation, and he had to drive home from San Diego to be at this meeting, and then he just turned around and went back because he was told to be at the meeting. Now, I don't know if Chief Gilbert told him or who told him, but I know that the sergeants were in communication with Chief Gilbert while he was at the academy.
Back then, did the chief have support of the police department?
Yeah, pretty much. We stood behind him, even up until just recently. You know, we didn't like a lot of the things that he did. We would go to him complaining about or with concerns over things and how things were being done and you know, as a department, you don't air your dirty laundry. We tried going to the council first and said, hey, we've got a problem, we need to talk to you. And they wouldn't talk to us. They wouldn't have anything to do with anything. They would, you know. So, you know, and even now it's hard to, because you don't do that. But what he has done is wrong.
Okay. Back in 2010, what were the procedures for approving FMLA? Do you know what they were?
Just though it was in the handbook, I believe Chief Gilbert, you'd fill out a leave slip requesting it. Sergeant would okay it. The supervisor, the chief, if he was there, would sign off on it. If he wasn't there, the town manager would sign off on it. Our department was very, very relaxed. There was no set procedure. You could go and say, hey, this is what's happening. I need this. They say, okay, do this. You know, it was a very, very relaxed, very kickback. I mean, there wasn't a lot of rigid. You know, you could go and say, hey, this is what do I do here? You know, it's like when my mom passed away. I went up to Northern California, and then I was, you know, it was weird because she passed away on a Thursday, and I came back on Monday. So Sergeant Frost said, well, you can only take 3 days or 2 days of bereavement, but when you go back up to have a service, you can use your other 3 days. That's okay, you know. And so, I mean, so it was not, there wasn't a lot of, this is how it is, you know. There wasn't a lot of, the policy and procedure, the handbook, I'm sure you guys have seen it, is real loose. It left a lot of room for interpretation, so.
Now, is it the police policies or the town?
Both. Because anything that had to do with the Family Leave Act or anything like that would be in the town handbook.
Now, do you know if it was something where it was an employee of the police department and they were going to use the Family Leave Act, is this something where, say for instance, Human Resources says, okay, hey, we're going to do it this way. Okay. If there was somebody within something that would be comparable to that, and then it was passed on to the town manager, and the town manager agreed with whatever was determined and then signed off on it, did that typically, just based on your position, and you might not have any knowledge of this, did it typically go to the chief for his review, or was it once it was agreed upon by the town manager that, okay, this is fine, we're going to go ahead and proceed it this way, that it was done that way? Or
that's the way it was done. There was lots of times the timesheets, that if the chief wasn't there, the sergeant would sign it, then it would just go down, the town manager would sign it, it'd go to finance. So if the town manager signed something before the chief signed something, it was because he wasn't available to sign it. And if she signed it, we figured, well, then she's, you know, whatever, she's a town manager. Yeah, it was considered a done deal, yeah.
Now, did you ever keep copies since you were the records person, did you ever keep personal records at the police department?
I did not keep personal records.
So all like leave requests and
things like that, no.
That stuff would go
the sergeants and I believe it came back, Sergeant Ponce was in charge of payroll things, taking it to down there, getting things signed and stuff. And he had stuff in a drawer. Finance kept the originals. They would give us back copies because they do this creative thing because of the 12-hour shifts that the officers would work because they'd have a long week and a short week, and I don't know. But so they would get copies back. But
okay. Are you aware of any leave requests that were whited? The signatures were whited out.
yes,
How did you find out about
Chief
that?
Gilbert called me in. Well, it may have been started out with I was getting close to being over the limit of annual leave. And they passed a thing. Before you'd be able to cash it in with economics the way it is in the budget, they said no, that they would do that they wanted you to take your leave. So Chief Gilbert had called me, and I went in, and he says, you and Dominguez and somebody else is gonna have to take some time off because you're gonna lose time. And I may have been the one that said, well, he just had a kid. How did he, I didn't even realize at the time that they were taking family leave or sick time or whatever. And so, because I wasn't involved in that. I knew he took off a block of time because his wife was going to have a baby. And so, and then that's when the chief pulled up all the different timesheets and, well, this isn't right, and whited it out.
Okay, did you see him white it out?
I saw the original that was whited out, yeah.
But
I can't say for sure that I saw him going like this, but it was signed and then it wasn't signed. I don't know. No, I cannot say I did.
Did you ever hear any conversations about that to anybody?
There was very loud conversations about it with him and Sergeant Ponce.
Okay, do you recall what was said?
Other than that, no. I mean, word for word, no. I could testify. So I know he was saying that Chief Gilbert was saying that they could only take the sick time. Could only use sick time for the time that their wife was in the hospital, and that they had to take vacation time for the rest of it. And Sergeant Ponce, would reply back saying, no, it was approved by that it had been done in the past, and it was approved by the town manager, and
Did you ever hear the chief tell Sergeant Ponce that the town manager didn't approve it?
He said she was not aware of what she was signing.
What? Do you know what type of whiteout that the chief usually used?
That roll stuff, the tape.
The tape.
Yeah.
So did he ever use the paint stuff?
He had the paint. He had paint stuff in there, and he had the little pin.
Okay.
But mostly it was the rolls, because I got to where I didn't order the liquid stuff. It was globby.
Do you recall when you took a look at that one that was whited out, what it looked like?
Like what the whiteout was?
Right.
It looked to me like it was the tape stuff.
If I show you a copy of it.
Uh-huh. That looks like the liquid stuff.
Okay. Do you recall that what's written over the liquid stuff, if that was there?
No. I don't remember that being there. No.
In your time as being, were you also the chief's assistant?
Well, he
Or
never
was this
said.
one of many hats?
Yeah, it was just one of many
Were
hats.
you ever aware of any time that the town manager would refer something back to the chief when it came to something like a leave request or?
Mm-mm. Because if he wasn't there and she needed to sign it, she signed it. It was never. I can't think of any instance. Because people didn't go over the top of people's heads. You know, I mean, you wouldn't go to the town manager if the chief was there. You'd just take it to him and have him sign it.
So based on that, how normally things were done, if I worked for the police department and I needed to take vacation time or family leave or whatever, that would be requested through the police department and the chief, or it would be approved through your chain of command. So based on what you've seen as far as a document where it was something that was done or signed by the town manager, it leads you to believe that the chief was not available.
Okay. What do you know about the investigation of sexual misconduct in Officer Starr?
Very, very little. The stepdad has been very vocal. One of the officers told me that one time that the Officer Starr was in his truck and was stuck in a wash or something, and she was in the vehicle, and the chief stopped by. She hid underneath stuff in the back seat or whatever, covered up so he didn't see her, and they got the vehicle out. And I mean, I don't know anything about it really.
Do you know if an investigation was ever conducted by the chief?
He says it was.
Okay, you being the record clerk, did you ever see a report?
There was no. There was no.
There's no report.
No. If it was done, just kept in chief's office. There was no DR pulled for it. Let's put it that way. To the best of my knowledge, I do not remember ever seeing one.
Okay. Are there any issues that you would wish to address which weren't previously discussed in this interview?
I don't think so. Like I said, this whole thing is, we requested Chief Gilbert be put on an admin leave so an investigation could be done. The town wouldn't do it, but they had no problem putting 10 of us on an admin leave.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
No.
Do you?
Yeah, and I don't know if this is relative or not. You were talking about that 10 employees from the police department got put on administrative leave. Who were the 10 employees that were placed on administrative leave?
It was myself, Sergeant Ponce, Officer Norris, Officer Dominguez, Villafana, Rubicava, Rodriguez. Who else? Oh, Kemp, and Frakes. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't want to get into that investigation because that's something that doesn't affect us. But were you guys all placed on the admin leave for the same specific reason?
Well, mine was a little bit different right at first because I felt like Rosa Parks. They said that I had lied to the town manager, which I don't believe I did, and then that I had brought discredit to the town, and that is what the other officers. Mine was separate. The officers all had. It was like one form. All their names were listed on with the same charge. Others were amended. Sergeant Ponce's was amended, and I believe maybe Yeoman's was. I don't know. Somebody else was amended. I can't remember. Maybe it was Officer Yeoman's, as to put other charges. But I know Ponce's was. But it was just that we had discredited the town and made the town council look bad, and the town manager and the police chief.
No, did it ever spell out that it was relative to any investigations?
Yes.
Criminal investigations that were.
They said that the part that they gave me was one page from the previous DPS investigation that said It was about Chief Gilbert not filling out leave sheets, not filling out timesheets, and that they said he had been cleared on that from the other investigation, and that by us bringing that up again to Arizona Post, that we were making false statements, and that... Hi.
Excuse me, about how much longer is Linda going to be?
5 minutes.
Okay, thanks. They had photocopied that one page and highlighted that one page, where, which was odd, because in the policy and procedure handbook and in Chief Gilbert's, when we got the Jackson Lewis investigation back, it had a copy of his contract in there, and it said that his leave was to be treated like everybody else's, and it's in the policy and handbook. It said something along the lines that he wasn't listed as an exempt employee, and then it was he accrued time just like everybody else. Well, if you accrue time, then you have to fill out timesheets to show that you're taking time. So, but that was the basis of the...
So all of this, so maybe I understand, is that was all a part of the vote of no confidence that went to post, or was that a separate type of thing?
That was part... The officers had put that in a letter, in the famed 4-page letter.
And that's part of the vote of no confidence as kind of like a factor within the vote of no confidence.
Well, yeah, and because, they took it to post because it was an ethic thing, is that the right word, ethic? That it's not right. I'm not sure what they were hoping to have happen, but they took that in there to, yeah.
Okay. That was just a question. I didn't want to get into it so that I didn't intermingle these here, but since we are looking partially at the vote of no confidence, I just wanted to see if it had to do with any type of things that were put in with the vote of no confidence.
That's what was interesting, is the reasons that they had fired us was because what they highlighted and gave everybody was that the chief didn't have to fill out timesheets.
Okay. And that was a part of the vote of no confidence. That was something that was... I think
it was mentioned in that 4-page letter that I'm sure you guys have.
That's all I have, Pete.
Okay, just one more question. I know I already asked it, but I'm going to try to ask it a different way. During your 9-year, the time that Chief Gilbert was here, and during those 3 years that he started becoming politically active, and those people that we're talking about, is he just getting run on? Had the chief ever run or asked this many times of CJIS and computer-related inquiries of anybody else in town that may have done more serious crime within the town?
No, not that I can remember anything. And because I'm thinking if there was serious things, I would probably remember it. I mean, I can't think of anybody that he had me run.
Right.
He may have had somebody run through dispatch, the sheriff's department on serious stuff, but he didn't have me run them. That's all.
Okay. Time is now 12 o'clock. The interview is concluded.
Thank you.